The Front Row Show does not reflect the views of Utah State Athletics, or its affiliates.
Excuse me, what the hell's going on out here?
I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Stick this in your trophy case.
The Aggies fall just barely short on the road against USC, but now look to bounce back in one of the biggest matchups of the season in Mountain West play. This week on The Front Row Show. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Front Row Show. As always, we're your hosts. I'm Matt Sonnenberg.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Jeff Browning. As always, you know the drill by now. Follow us on Twitter at USU Front Row, the Facebook page, all that jazz. Make sure you're interacting with us, because we like to interact back with you. You're part of us.
We're putting it out there with the podcast every week. Just throw it back our way a little bit, you know?
Exactly.
You can even hate on us as long as there's a tweet sheet question with it.
Yeah.
Why are you guys so dumb?
That's a what
you know what?
question.
I'll answer it. Lance, for starters. No, just kidding. Let's talk some sports,
We went there. This is a painful game to talk about only because Utah State was once again so close to pulling off a big signature win. And again, it just did not fall our way. Utah State loses to USC 17-14. Break it down.
It's just another one of those painful things where we did everything. I shouldn't say we did everything, but we did so many things to put ourselves in grasp of actually getting this game. And not to say that I'm getting so sick of being competitive in these, but I would you want to come out with a victory, obviously. Yeah. But the fact of the matter is we put ourselves in a position to win, and there were just a couple things that stood up that we couldn't close on.
You know, the thing that really stands out to me with this is last week we were talking about this game, and I was saying how worried we need to be about USC's speed on offense. If their running backs get in the open field, if their wide receivers get out there. That was, offensively, we were able to keep that in check. It was the speed of their defense.
They were incredible.
That really just got in, not just the speed, but the overall just
athleticism
physicality.
And size. Yeah.
They were pressuring Chucky Keaton as much as any team has ever pressured him. They were able to cover our wide receivers very well. And maybe the biggest thing is that speed that they had back there was able to completely neutralize Chucky Keaton as a runner. Which, that's a big factor. That's a part of what makes him such a good quarterback, and they were able to make him simply a passer that day.
Well, it seemed to me that USC's game plan was simply this. We recruit the best athletes in the country. We're going to line up, and we're going to let them come at you. And if you can block them, if you can beat us, so be it. But they just unleashed their athletes on us. And more than anything, it seemed that speed got into the minds of our players.
Well, that
was a big factor.
That hybrid defense look just tore us to pieces.
Oh my gosh.
You could watch it on the TV that they'd be lining three guys up against two guys on our line, and you go, that's where the hole's going to come through, and that guy would come through untouched on the line. The multiple sets they were running on defense and their size and athleticism, just between that and the fact that it seemed like a couple of our guys just had the jitters coming out. It really ended up shooting us in the foot when it came to pulling out a victory in this one.
Yeah, I think, that defense was able to shut down our offense, which not many people are going to be able to do this year. Utah put up a pretty admirable performance. They did really well at stifling our offense, but we still got 26 points on them in that game. And, it's one of those things where we're not going to see that kind of speed again this year. So, in a way, it's kind of – I feel like this is equivalent to what a lot of people want out of basketball early in the year, a big, tough road game against a premier team to get battle-tested and get those guys, trying to play up to a higher level and recognizing what they can do better and improving as the season goes on. This may in some way be that case because it's not going to get – we're not going to face any other team where someone's packing five-star guys at pretty much every position.
Well, and that's, once again, despite the fact that we were in this basically until the final seconds once again, preseason predictions were 8-4, It is a game that realistically at the beginning of the season I did not check off as a victory for us. And despite the fact that, yes, we were close, I do have to take that step back and go, all right, you know what? We still, that number one goal, and I know the team has said it, the coaches have said it, we've reiterated it, get that Mountain West Conference championship on our belt this year.
And that goal is still within reach for this team. One thing about this game that's interesting, though, is we talk about the speed and athleticism and size that USC's defensive line had, but when Utah State actually chose to run the ball, they were effective in doing it.
All right. Are you guys ready for a little mini rant?
I'm sitting back.
This? Because I tweeted about this after the game, and a handful of people retweeted it and favorited it. So a lot of other people noticed.
Because it was true.
This is incredibly frustrating. So Utah State had 2 scoring drives in that game. On the first scoring drive, it was a 78-yard drive. 57 of those 78 yards came on the ground. On the passing plays, Chucky was 2 for 5 for only 21 yards. Now, granted, the touchdown came via the arm of Chucky Keaton. Second scoring drive of the game, 48 yards out of 72 on the drive came on the ground. Joey DiMartino and Joe Hill were doing very well. They combined to average 8.8 yards per carry. Now, a lot of that came on a 55-yard run by DiMartino, but still, they were breaking those loose and creating those opportunities. Joe Hill had, I think, a 26-yard run. So it was working. And when you were able to establish the run, it makes the passing game that much easier to open up. But it seemed that, we were throwing a lot on first down, which didn't work well for us. Chucky had an off game. There's no two ways about it. He was facing pressure like he hasn't seen before. And even when he had maybe a little bit more room, it seemed like it was in his head that he thought he didn't have as much time as he did. And with the speed of those USC defenders, you can't fault him a ton for that, but still an off game. In that scenario, you don't want to throw the ball on first down that much. Anyway, back to my main point. After that second scoring drive to make it 14-14, Utah State did not hand the ball off once to the running backs in 2 more drives in the third quarter. And after that second scoring drive, there were 27 more offensive plays that USU ran, excluding punts. But not excluding the fake punt when we went for it. That counts. 27 offensive plays, only 5 of those were handoffs to the running backs when they were producing. It's one of those things where you just look at it, and I get that hindsight's 20/20, but I really hope the coaching staff is looking at that and seeing, man, we might have missed one there because the Aggies could have kept moving the ball on the ground, but they. And you understand to a point of wanting to trust your superstar in Keaton, put the ball in his hands, let him air it out. But we've got other very good players. I mean, part of what made last season so great was that we had a superstar in Chucky Keaton at quarterback, and we had a superstar in Kerwin Williams at running back, and they complemented each other. And when you have that balance, that's what makes an unstoppable offense. And we didn't have that balance Saturday, and our offense was very stoppable.
It was like Bizarro World Dave Baldwin. Like,
honestly,
like you had 3 years ago we would run up the middle every single play during the fourth quarter, and this kind of had on the opposite side of the ball.
Unless it was that game in 2011 at BYU when Robert Turbin had like 128 yards on 9 carries.
Never give him the ball again.
Wouldn't give him the ball later in the game when he was unstoppable. And this is something that, it's a young coaching staff in many ways. Kevin McGivern is not he's been around. He's a little bit of a veteran coach, but not as seasoned as a lot of guys out there. And Matt Wells is a rookie head coach who, as an offensive coordinator, was great. And I don't know how much of the balance McGivern's handling in the play calling, but I feel like Matt Wells of last year as the offensive coordinator and guy calling the plays would have been all over this. He would have recognized this like the Toledo game.
Sure.
The run wasn't working, but a lot of us said, you keep giving it to Kerwin up the middle. You keep giving it to Kerwin, he will break one. And then he broke like 4. But it's just one of those things where it was working. We needed to stick with it, and we did not. And that was the difference between winning a game on ABC in front of a massive audience in a very rare and special opportunity and coming out with a 17-14 loss.
Well, we've talked so much about offense at the first. Let's flip it because our defense played, perhaps, considering the starting position that USC was in, they were routinely starting at our 40.
Yeah, they
they balled
they
out
dominated the field position
routinely.
battle. Their punter had a phenomenal game in pinning our offense deep. So it resulted more often than not in USC's offense. If we had a 3-and-out and punted, USC was starting the ball at the 40-yard line midfield.
I was
oftentimes.
begging for any of those balls to actually go into the end zone. Just go over the line a little bit.
One of them did, and they still gave it to. They still pinned us on the 2. And
It's ridiculous.
we were getting Pac-12 right there.
But no,
As we did throughout the game.
Boy, was that a theme Saturday or what? Ineligible receiver downfield with a wide receiver. Oh,
anyway.
man.
But no, I think our defense really, really proved something about what they're going to be capable of doing this next year, especially when you consider that we had a couple key injuries sitting there.
Yeah.
And even then, I remember they threw up a stat sometime in the third or fourth quarter that said basically something like 75% of USC's drives in the game had started within the 50-yard line on our side of the ball. And we gave up only 17 points. One of them when we had punted and gave them a chip shot field goal to start.
Which is the difference. That was the field goal that won it for them. This isn't Auburn or Wisconsin where it was a massive special teams blunder or even one or two of them that cost us this game. But that's bad. That is very, very bad on Jared Bentrud to shake that punt like he did in that area. It's one thing that we were already pinned deep and our defense was playing out of this world. And, our coverage teams were doing great.
Yeah,
USC,
secondary was awesome.
They've got the athletes to really, really hurt us in the return game, and our coverage team was good. But, man, you give up that punt, only going 12 yards, punting out of the end zone, and it was a chip shot field goal as a worst-case scenario from the start of that drive, which ended up being the difference.
But the fact is once again, we did hold them to only a field goal, and I think that's something that once again needs to be lauded is just about every single position on that defense stood up and man for man was able to do. Huge shout-outs to especially the defensive line with the way that they were starting to lay hits on Kessler at the end of the game.
Kept Trey Madden under 100 yards.
They kept Trey Madden under 100 yards, which was the first time this season.
Lee really,
he was bottled
really
up.
well contained. He
Our
had
secondary did
six
awesome.
catches for 72 yards, but this is a guy that is
The best
He's a
receiver in the
highlight
country.
receiver. That's what he's supposed
he
to
won
be.
the Bolitnikoff Award last year. He's a Heisman Trophy, a likely candidate. We can't say favorite. He's not Monty Ball from last year where he was a Heisman favorite. But Marquise Lee is the best receiver in the country. And while we had a couple PI penalties, but man,
especially in the second half.
Find me 5 more guys in the country that will stick, body to body with MarquiseLee 30 yards downfield like Nevin Lawson did.
I
Well
thought
done,
Nevin
Nevin.
may have played his best
Well
game
done,
as an
Nevin.
Aggie.
I might agree with that. He, people were bagging on him because he got a PI call, and he does that sometimes because he plays such good man coverage, like too good with the way pass interference is called these days.
Yeah.
And it's a frustrating nature of the game, but it is on him to recognize that and realize to maybe pull back a tiny bit and try to adjust to the ball. He hasn't improved on that as much as we had hoped, but man, there was a lot of times where Kessler was maybe looking to throw to Lee and saw he was covered and didn't even try it.
My realization of this game after watching it, yes, you're mad about the loss. I get that. But watching that defense go up against some of the most elite athletes in the country, Utah State does not see athletes like this ever. These are guys that Alabama, Ohio State, they all covet these type of athletes that USC has. It's an elite athleticism. You can't stress that enough.
And if they weren't horribly coached, they'd be, top 5 in the nation.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, between that and the sanctions, if you take away those two things,
but
be big.
To watch our defense bottle these guys up and contain them has got to give you a lot of hope that this defense, who is going to score on us again this year? Really? Who is going to do it?
I had concerns after the Utah game that our pass coverage was going to be very vulnerable. I had concerns about after the Air Force game that our pass coverage was vulnerable, but they locked down in the second half of that game. Weber State, you can't take a lot from it, but they've
getting
improved.
better.
They've improved like the coaching staff said they would. I'm not 100% sold yet because we didn't win the game, but they did a very, very good job
against elite
And then, I mean,
talent.
against an elite talent.
Yes.
And if that continues, we're going to be playing for a Mountain West championship, especially when you consider what happened Friday night. Boise State goes down to
Yep.
Fresno State. They have
Yes.
a conference loss now. That is massive
Off
for
of
Utah State.
what I believe to be was it a missed extra point that ended up factoring on the game?
They went for. I think they went for 2.
They
and
went
they
for
didn't
2
get
at one
it.
point and they didn't get it?
No,
Yeah.
Boise State went for 2 and got it.
Oh, they got it.
Yeah, I believe they were up. They were up 4. They had just gone up 4 after a touchdown, and they went for 2
Got
and got
it,
it.
and then Fresno
because
scored the touchdown.
2 field goals will
Yeah.
tie it when they're up 6. 2 field goals will win it if they only if they get the 1 point or if they fail the 2 point. They're still 2 field goals will kill them. That scenario, 2 field goals would have just tied it, but Fresno got a touchdown and the extra point.
That makes more sense.
So the fact is we got Boise will as long as we win that Boise game.
Oh yes.
Well,
Wyoming's looking tough though.
Exactly.
That's
Wyoming.
oh goodness. Brett Smith had an incredible week.
Brett Smith's having an incredible
Year.
season.
He's
Yeah.
doing awesome.
But they don't have any type of receivers like Marquise Lee.
Well, and that's
Right.
that's the big question is like USC did not have a quarterback that is on the level of David Fales or Brett Smith. They just don't have a Kessler's good, but there's a reason he was not named all-out starter until the 3rd week of the season.
Yeah.
We've got the quarterbacks at this point, but none of our guys have the receiving core that USC does. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what the dichotomy in there is going to be. If they're
Basically-
going to be able to sub out, if it's going to be a wash, or how that's going to work.
You can look at it, and what it really comes down to now is that Utah State essentially has a 1-game cushion. Even say we beat Boise State and flub against Wyoming, still a pretty good chance that we're still going to that West. We're going out of the Mountain Division to that championship game. Who I'm not totally sold on them still, but Fresno is looking okay. They're gonna be a tough battle, and if we get there, but things despite the loss, as far as the Mountain West Conference is concerned, this was a good weekend for Utah State.
In closing out the USC game, guys, game balls real quick.
Ooh, that's tough.
While you're thinking, I'll give mine to Nevin Lawson. Going against Marquise Lee and the rest of the USC receiving staff, great job by Nevin. Awesome.
Yeah. I've got to go. Jake Dowdy, he's the leader of this defense. He has produced in every game. I think he's led the team in tackles every game so far, and he did it again with 12 more in this game. He to me is the Aggie defense right now, and he led them in an absolutely fine performance. I give it to Dowdy.
I'm throwing mine to Fackrell. Just on the other side, he had some of the more explosive defensive plays that we saw. A couple amazing tackles in the backfield, the fumble involvement that he had. It's difficult not for me to spread that over across the entire, not only linebacker core, but really the defense in general. I mean, that was the brilliant shining thing that we had out of this game, is that our defense is just gonna wipe the fields with some teams later on in the year. You do forget that technically the defense did pitch a complete shutout against Weber.
Yeah.
Yeah, our offense
They
scored
did.
all the points. in the
That's
game.
Yeah.
that they I think that you will see that occur. In fact, I will go on record as saying it. You're going to watch a defensive shutout again sometime this season.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know
I'm
how
excited.
my predictions on this thing go.
Well, a win against USC would have been great. None of it would have mattered if Utah State does not take care of business in the Mountain West Conference. The road to the Mountain West Championship continues as Utah State again travels to San Jose State to take on the Spartans. Last year, Utah State was coming off a loss and traveled to San Jose State and just blitzkrieged David Fales to the tune of 13 sacks. Is there a repeat performance in store?
I'm not ruling it out. I think this team, they know how good they are. They know that they let one get away at USC. This defense knows now that they are capable of letting nobody score on them in bunches, even if it's Bolitnikoff Award winner Marquise Lee, and even if it's David Fales and company trying to light it up. San Jose, they look to have taken a bigger step back than I thought they would this year. They don't look as quite nearly as good, really, as I thought they would be. Losing to Minnesota, is
Badly.
That's a tough one. That's bad. But I still think it will be tough. This game is not a gimme for the Aggies, and I think every game in conference play, now you're focused. BCS out of the picture. Forget it. But at this point, you got to you focus on Mountain West Championship because it's still within reach, and this is the biggest road test that we have so far, I think.
There's a couple things that the Aggies have taught me about in the past 2 or 3 years as far as things that happen to them as a team over the season. The first is this: they don't take losses well, in the sense that they come back from losses with vengeance and something to be proven.
Like the time they lost Chucky Keaton right before halftime.
There you go.
Oh, man.
And basically we have not lost back-to-back games in a long time, and I would almost say, and we can look at the stats of this some other time, but we've generally had some pretty statistically sound games following losses just about every time. The things that make me hopeful for the San Jose State game were the amount of contact we had on Kessler in the third and fourth quarter when our defense was just all over USC's backfield. He was getting passes off, but he was hurried and he was getting hurt. I mean, you could tell our guys were hitting him hard. I'm not scared of San Jose's offensive line as being able to keep out our blitz packages.
Yeah, like didn't last year.
Well,
and they lost 2 guys to graduation.
And that's I really think our defense is going to stand up. But at the same point, San Jose State's defense is not too scary to me.
No.
And that Chucky Keaton is going to be able to turn this around and really stand up for himself. Here's the thing about the
Minnesota game is the quarterback from Minnesota, he ran all over San Jose State's defense, and he is not near the runner that Chucky Keaton is.
Yep.
I mean, he's a pass-first quarterback, and he was able to accumulate, I think, close to 100 yards rushing against San Jose State. If they do not shore that up, Chucky Keaton is going to have a field day and a great bounce-back game.
Providing he runs.
I mean,
that's one of the hard things about the USC game is he became a pass-first quarterback in a lot of ways, and sometimes maybe he shouldn't have been. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to this week is you've got a running attack that's going to be able to open up, and our offense, I think, is going to be able to actually mount up.
Here's perhaps the biggest factor in this game is that San Jose State suffered the loss of Noel Grigsby.
Yep.
And that is huge. I mean, David Fales is a great quarterback, but when you lose your top receiving threat, that really nullifies what you can do offensively.
Well, to a point. I mean, we were dreading the losses of Matt Austin and Chuck Jacobs.
Our 5 top receiving threats, really.
And we've had guys step up, much bigger than we thought. There could be still a guy on their team that was just waiting for that opportunity who might be now getting it. The biggest thing is that, out of our games out of division in Mountain West Conference play this year, this is the toughest one. We have to go on the road for them, and it's going to be difficult. And David Fales is still a very good quarterback capable of making plays. But you're right. There is something to that of losing a receiver who, among receivers we'll see this year, probably would have been one of the top 5.
Yeah.
Probably unquestionably.
And, you look at the game last year, he had 2 touchdowns against us. You take away those 2 touchdowns, and our kind of steady blowout performance turns out into just a massacre.
Yep.
The fact is he's going to be able – David Fales is going to be able to throw the ball. We know it. The question is whether or not he's going to have people who are receiving it on the other end. And whether or not our secondary is going to be able to go mess that up. Yeah. No, that's I think we have every right to be confident going into this game, judging with the way that San Jose State has performed and the history that Utah State is bringing into this game, both post-loss and what we've been able to show for ourselves on the season. I guess the final line for me is San Jose State's offense is going to be shut down by our defense for the majority of the game. And I don't think their defense is nearly as scary as the defense anywhere near the vicinity of the defense we just got playing. I think Chucky Keaton's going to be able to tear some people apart next week. Also, our running backs, just about everyone else, I think we're going to see an all-around performance. So.
Yeah, I think we need to see one of those big running back breaks for a touchdown, like we saw. Joey D did it against Weber State, but it's time to do it against the big boys now. But one note about this game is we're gonna have ourselves a little party, aren't we?
So this idea comes from our sound engineer Trevor. He also works at Savannah's Barbecue, and the idea was they got a great back room, tons of space. What's better than barbecue in football? Like, seriously, guys, there's nothing better.
It's about as American as you can get.
Amen. So we here at the Front Row Show, in conjunction with Savannah's Barbecue, we're throwing together a watch party. And Friday night, come on down, join us at Savannah's Barbecue. Watch the game with the Front Row.
If you're going to be sitting next to me, you might want to bring earplugs because I do
It's
get
a
very
little loud.
loud during games. I really, really, really like the Aggies. I don't know if you knew this about me.
So details as we understand them are you show up, they're going to have cheap food that you can grab. They're welcome to stay for the entire game. They got, a dedicated sound system for the entire restaurant, or at least the half will be in. We'll be playing specifically the game sound.
You don't have to listen over people. You can actually hear what is going on, which is critical to the game day experience.
The kind
guys.
of game atmosphere that really needs to be created that
Yes.
Buffalo Wild Wings always seems to be lacking. You go in there, they're playing top 40 hits.
Yeah, no.
It's going to be a party.
This is a dedicated Aggie event.
It'll be like a Buffalo Wild Wings commercial.
Here's the thing.
With old guys telling us how we should eat our wings and stuff.
Here's the thing, though, guys. We actually had a little mini watch party ourselves. We kind of got the info out late. We put it out there on Twitter. We had a few of us actually show up to Savannah's and watch the USC game. It was great. It was good to converse with other Aggie fans. The food was fantastic. I couldn't be a better place to watch the game on Friday night than with us at Savannah's.
Yeah, so you can show up, watch the whole game. I mean, we'd like to think we're entertaining people to do
we
things
think
with.
that.
I'll be a little late. I have some theater things that are calling my name.
Yeah,
they'll take up my time. None of you should come to my show on Friday at 7:30.
That's an anti-plug
No.
there.
All of you should come on every other night, though. It's the old Lyric
There you
Theater.
go.
You can come
There
up
you
and
go.
show it up. Some good classic restoration French drama for all of you. But I will be there after that gets over. We'll come check out the rest of the game on Friday night. The rest of the crew's going to be there. And to be honest, like, Trevor's an amazing cook. He's going to have some new recipes he's trying out for us for the week. Some great barbecue. So show up.
And we get
we'll have a
this
blast.
started this game. We can do it for every game. That would be sweet.
Yeah.
Place to watch Aggie football and eat good barbecue.
If you build it, they will come. So with all that in mind about the watch party, we're eager to present this week. It's a segment where we find something that's a lot of people are talking about online, and we like to weigh in on things, give our own takes about what we think. So for the first time under this format, we present to you the hot topic brought to you by Savannah's Barbecue. This week, we're talking about something that's been going on usufans.com quite a bit lately about Hell's Bells being played on third downs at Romney Stadium and whether or not it is good or effective. Guys, do you want to give it your thoughts before I go on a mini rant again like I did about running the ball?
Well, here's my thought, because everyone knows I work in the athletics department, so I'm somewhat involved in that selection process. I don't think it should take music to get people loud. And in fact, it shouldn't matter if they play Hell's Bells, any other type of rock song, Itsy Bitsy Spider. It should just be natural for us to get loud. Unfortunately, that isn't the case. So we have to put something up there like Hell's Bells to even let you know that it's third down.
No, I think it is the best intended thing in the world, honestly. I think that they look at a lot of the other big programs in the nation. They see this is what they're doing. We want to copy it
USC
exactly.
did it.
But the trick is I don't think that we have, and this is going to sound a little bigoted of me, but the fact is when you walk into Wisconsin or Alabama, these are people who have been raised and bred on football for their entire lives. They understand every single facet of the game. They understand what's important about what's going on at which moment. So the music is not there to be like, all right, here is your signal to have something happen, because they get it and they know what's going on. Utah State fans are not necessarily lifelong college football fans. Nothing against them. I mean, but
We are them.
the IQ of the fan for Utah State football is new. I mean, we're a program that's only been worth following from a casual level for 3 years. So I can't fault anyone for having a little bit of trepidation on anything. But at the same point, there's some changes.
Time
and
to
things.
listen and learn about how
there's-
to be better.
There's some changes that need to be made with the fan base. So,
all right.
Matt,
So here's the thing. Here's the listening and learning part that I want to help you out with. When it comes to Hell's Bells, here's my take. It's not necessarily a bad thing. However, the execution of it, I don't like. First off, you need it louder. You need something louder. You need something more pump up-ish. And the ringing of the bells is nice, but it never even gets into the guitar riff of the song by the time the play's going off. So all you hear is just bells. And people are like, oh, it's third down. A lot of places are doing things on third down. Wisconsin did it. USC did it. Actually, USC did the bells from Hell's Bells, but then kick into Zombie Nation, which, everyone's heard that song a million times. But it needs to be louder. Even if you just start it when the guitar riff comes in, let that part of the song be where you start with Hell's Bells. That's an improvement. I think you need a better song. I think if you're going to go with something like that, go with Bulls on Parade. You can. There's a little riff I cut up of it a few years ago that I threw out there and didn't get used, and it has that riff that just builds up, and it's perfect because Bulls on Parade, Aggies, Bulls. It just is great. Going along with what you said though, Lance, I think it is a cultural thing of understanding. Now, for me, it's it's easy to look at it and think and wonder, what the heck's wrong with people. I grew up in Illinois. I mean, I was a half and half between Utah and Illinois, but I was out there all the time with my dad, going to football games in Big Ten territory. I got to go to a lot of Notre Dame games growing up, and seeing their student section and how everybody just knew it. It wasn't like the freshmen were lacking and didn't know what was going on. They knew what was going on. They knew come third down, you lose your minds because that culture is just there amongst everybody. I think it's an overall caring about sports that Utah in a lot of ways is lacking. I think that's why you see, look at the Utah Jazz when they're not, borderline playoff bound, their attendance plummets. And not to say that that's out of the ordinary, but I think it does more so than you would hope. You would hope that in a big market like Salt Lake, with the the reach of Ogden all the way down to Utah Valley, and even people from Logan, you should be able to borderline pack the Energy Solutions for every game. The Salt Lake Bees are another example where it's just a large indifference to sports. Now, when it comes to college football, especially, Utah doesn't have an NFL team. You have NFL loyalties spread out all over the country, and most people haven't gone to an NFL football game because they're played on Sunday, and a lot of people don't go to games on Sunday around Utah. It's part of culture, and that's understandable. But you look at it, there hasn't been the college football culture. So USU, for as long as any current USU student has been alive, hasn't had a great football culture. We're trying to build it now, and we're slowly getting there, I think. When you look at the turnout of the students at the Weber State game, the tailgating got a late start, but it got good for a while there. We're slowly getting there. BYU, they're just bad at the college football experience. It's tame, it's weird. It's like stepping into a large bowl of censorship and lack of overall knowledge. Utah, on the other hand, in the last 10 years, since Urban Meyer arrived for the Utes, they've built a pretty nice little culture there. You look at their tailgating lot, and it is great. It is, it's not the massive expanse of, 100,000 people that you might get in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but it is a very good culture. And you look at what their Must student section has done is they understand on third downs you lose your mind and you go crazy and make noise. And I think that goes with the culture that has been created, that you have this enthusiasm among a lot of them that grew up around Salt Lake lately, that have seen that culture and saw that grew over the last 10 years, that throughout their, from the time they were 5 years old or a little bit older, they saw that and recognized that and got there and see, okay, well, this is how it's done. We've got to create that here. Not saying we need to mimic everything Utah does, but we need to create a more in-depth knowledge of college football and what you do during games, between always yelling when we're on defense. No chance, no defense and two claps. You yell and make noise. And when our offense is lining up, you're quiet. Go crazy after the play. But when they're lining back up, you get quiet again because you don't want to disrupt our offense. That knowledge needs to just be second nature to people, and we're not there yet. We're a long way from there. And, man, this was a tangent from Hell's Bells, but I think that's a starting point of just overall one aspect of a greater, bigger picture that we still need to create.
Well, the fact is we're on our way, and you said sometimes I got to take a step back and temper my expectations and go, we really are only 3 years out of having, or 5 years out of having really no one at games, but there is no reason to settle for low expectations at this point. Raise the expectation, not only for the team, because everyone has high expectations for the team at this point. And we've said it all year, there's something to be said about having high expectations for our fan base at the same time. Not criticizing, not saying everyone sucks, you can all do better, but the ability to go out and go, okay, guys, this is your chance to stand up and really make a difference. I mean, it's what the whole idea that we've had with Arms Around is all about, is what can I personally do to show the football team that I'm there for them as much as I know that they're out there winning so that I can be happy too.
I think one of the biggest things is that there's a lot of people out there willing to do what needs to be done to make that difference. I mean, look at Charlie Riddle out there at every game going nuts, and he's got a crew of people with him, bunch of dudes that love the Aggies and are going crazy. But I think what we need to get out there more is knowing what you need to do to make that difference, the right way to make that difference. And I think getting that knowledge out there, and it's you can't fault people for growing up in a place that hasn't had a great college football atmosphere. It's just the way it is. What are they supposed to do about it? I was lucky, and but the more that we can get it there, and I think maybe it just grows as your program does. Like I used Utah as an example. They've had a good run of success, and maybe as ours continues, they'll understand it more and realize, well, I'm better off clapping my hands instead of holding 3 fingers in the air in third down because it makes more noise and we're more likely to fluster the opposing offense. I think once more people realize why you're doing the things you're doing at games, the more, and it starts at the top, the more we can get it out there, the better off we're going to be.
My last words on this are, don't be dependent on a song played over the loudspeaker, or if you're sitting on the west side, don't be dependent on the students making noise for you. Seriously, you have a mouth, you have 2 hands, use them. Make noise on third down, get involved. Don't rely on someone or something to do the job for you. And that's really where the change comes.
One other quick note, if you're sitting on the west side and you want to be loud and rowdy, come join the dark side. Southeast corner of the stadium. There's a handful of us last week, and we were loud and we were rowdy. Sorry if you were sitting near us and we upset you or obstructed your view, but we're trying to start a revolution, and not everyone's going to love it at first.
This is going to be a repeating theme for probably the rest of the season. So I'll just promise you're going to hear some more things about what you guys can do a little next week before our preview for a certain home game that we're all pretty stoked about being able to play. So make sure you tune in next week. We got some fun things that are planned. Hey, let's tweet sheet.
All right, we're going to start off this week from a comment from WA Aggie fan, and this actually pertained to last week, but it's such a good comment, and Matt, you will appreciate this, so we're going to throw it out there.
Okay.
He says, why won't Aggie fans let the U and the Y die? USU truly is third wheel when fans spend weeks before the USC game discussing the Holy War and just BYU in general.
It goes back to culture, I think, and this is some of the culture we've had at USU where at this point in the year, for a lot of years, the season and all the expectations and hopes of a conference championship were kind of over. And we were looking forward to basketball.
It was prime basketball.
It was kind of the
preview
storyline to talk
point.
about. I think some people are getting better. I think the excitement about the Aggies is getting better. But there's still a long ways to go where it's just, who cares, I after that game went final, when BYU and Utah went final, I just tweeted out Aggies. That's all I care about.
And
that's my team.
There's something to be said about it. Like I've been saying it all night, actually. We've been living on Schadenfreude for a long time of just grabbing our joy off of the misery of other people. Now, granted, they do a lot to make themselves miserable, but them winning should never make us sad if we have also won that day. And I know a lot of people who go out and go, BYU won today. It means our win isn't as good for some reason, The fact of the matter is we're not playing third wheel anymore. We're right in the mix, and
we're playing old wagon wheel.
We're playing wagon wheel.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to come through.
We're bringing it
and
home.
The fact is yes. You know what? It's okay. Enjoy their pain a little bit, but there is no reason that it should come up all of the times, despite all of the things that they do to make it come up.
And
just bring it up.
And don't let their pain overshadow your Aggie fandom and your joy in your Aggie victory. It's fun to watch BYU fans capitulate, though.
One other thing, I mean, don't be ashamed to watch those games because they are in-state games and they're big. There's interest there. I get that. I went out and watched that game while I was down in California that night. But man, the rest of the week, who cares? Go learn more about the Aggies. Go find out who's Zach Vigil, this guy that's just racking up tackles and tackles for loss and sacks. Like, oh, he blocked the punt against Utah. Learn something about the Aggies. Just know the roster inside and out because you're better for it, and you'll be a better Aggie fan for it. And the more you know, you might meet other people that know a lot like you. Who knows? You might start a revolution together.
Think of ways to get loud on third down. That's a good use of your time. Ryan Peterson, he says, were the refs really as one-sided as I thought, or am I just bitter and angry?
They were pretty one-sided.
Yeah.
There's a couple calls that were just outright horrible. To name a couple, the ineligible receiver downfield on one of our wide receivers.
Baffling.
That was the most mind-blowing call I've ever seen.
There have been multiple professional people who have put on news sites that call was just 100% blown.
There was also the illegal contact of the punt returner where not an Aggie player touched him, but a USC player, in fact, made contact with him. We got flagged for that. I mean, those are the two
There
big
was
ones.
the roughing the kicker call that just got turned into running into the kicker.
Yeah.
You know, that could have gone both ways depending on what, you know.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is the reffing crew was not the best.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form.
In kind of the same way against Utah, we got
happened
Pac-12
twice
quite a bit.
Pac-12 opponents.
There seems to be a trend. And a week after, Wisconsin got jobbed in that game. Like, it was a funky ending. And I didn't believe at first that their quarterback actually got a knee down until I saw the photos from the rear side that, yeah, he did, and then set the ball down. The officials just completely jobbed Wisconsin at the end of there by mismanaging the game. And it just kind of seems like the referees for the Pac-12 are a little bit representative of how kind of what we've seen from the West Coast Conference. In their refs just seem to really just skew games to favor them. So it makes you wonder. But yes, it was terrible.
Todd tweets it. He says, tough outing for the Aggies and Chucky. How confident are we that he can bounce back on a short week?
Very. The fact is we don't need to change anything. There would be, if we needed to make some sort of adjustment, if there was something that was lacking from Chucky through games that we needed to switch, I'd be worried. We just got to bring him back to where he has been, and going up against a defense that's pocket full of holes, I think is going to be exactly what we need.
Here's the thing. Chucky Keaton's smart. He's very good at what he does, and I'm sure he's seen his stats, and I'm sure he's seen his film, and nobody is probably more upset about it than Chucky. So if that means he's going to take it all out on San Jose,
bring it on.
Sucks to be a Spartan.
Jeff tweets in. What a great name.
It's a great alliteration, by the way.
Yes. There's an opening on Bronco Mendenhall's radio show. Should we apply for the job?
No, we have dignity.
Yes.
Moving on. Next question.
Elise tweets it. He says, now that the Aggies are focused on the Mountain West, or do they think about the loss to BYU? And can they push past the two close losses?
Yes. I beyond a doubt in my mind, you push past those losses. The fact is this team over our past 20 games is just tearing people up.
Yeah.
You know, we have a couple close losses, but who outside Alabama doesn't? You know, and Alabama still even has a couple one close loss. You know, in the past 2 years. The fact is losses come
to everyone,
but this team has proven over and over and again to me, and it's something that really exemplifies Aggie football in general at this point, is our ability to bounce back and consistently still show up for games.
I mean, if I'm not wrong, I believe Alabama had a 3-point loss 2 years ago to LSU, and then won out the rest of the year, met them again in the national championship game, and stomped them 21-0. And they've lost one game since en route to another national championship, and things were looking all right for them since. Not to say we're Alabama, but we're not going to let a loss bury us. The goal is a Mountain West championship, and it is so attainable if we just stay focused and play our game.
Our good friend of the program, Garrett Wheeler, back from his Twitter hiatus, says, give us your predictions for the number of San Jose State quarterback sacks in the game.
I am going to go a little more modest, and I'm going to say 5.
8.
6.
Yeah. No. I really think, honestly, the fact, if I do have to preface that, I will say 8 if Connor Williams is back playing this week.
Okay, fair enough.
I would play it down probably around 6 if he's not. Maybe I would love our defensive line to stand up and prove me wrong and be like,
I'll say this much though. I've been impressed with the play of Paul Piocala and Jordan Nielsen in Connor Williams' absence.
Even going deeper, and Ricky Aliafua been doing some
that
good
tackle.
stuff.
He had that just man of a tackle
in the Air Force game, which is down.
Yep.
Ugh.
Derek tweets in with our last question of the show. Does Chucky come out very motivated and completely dominate the Spartan D?
Yes.
I agree with that.
However, I'm going to make a weird prediction. He will throw one interception in the game because he's going to make one play. It might happen early where he's trying to kind of prove that USC was a fluke.
It's like you said. He's smart. He studied his film. And if Chucky Keaton is worth his salt, he puts a performance like last week behind him, and he comes out motivated and focused. And I think that's the key, is his focus in this game.
Yeah.
I still think I'll say you see a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio on the game, though.
Yeah, that's fine.
Three passing touchdown. You know what? 4-to-1.
I was thinking 4.
4-to-1. It's down.
And 1 rushing for him. Crazy enough, Chucky Keaton only has 1 rushing touchdown in the year so far.
That will change.
That will.
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone, for tweeting in. As always, send your tweets to at USU Front Row any time of the week and interact with us, as always, because we love it.
With the hashtag tweet sheet.
To close out our show, we're going to go around the mic and each give our last words for this week. Matt, start us off.
I'll start it off. Kind of going with my rant from earlier. This is a talk Lance and I had before. Be that crazy hooligan fan that has both the know-how of what needs to happen and the right way for things to happen at a game, as well as a great idea and the motivation to make it happen. You know, there's certain things you got to stick with as far as what needs to be done at a college football game or a basketball game, but be that fan, get the know-how, make it happen. We need that.
My last words going to be that basketball season's starting up soon.
Friday.
Okay? And, granted, once again, it is the most wonderful thing in the world for me to be able to have no one really discussing what's going on with basketball at this time of the year, because our football team is excelling for the first time in the last couple of years, for the first time in basically anyone's conscious memory. However, you can't let the fanaticism for football take away from what basketball is going to be able to accomplish this year, because I think we're en route for a fantastic basketball season. So
they got crazy because that used to be the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite of things. Is people would be like, "Oh, football's done. Let's watch some basketball." And there's a couple times this year we're going to be able to watch football games and then walk over and watch basketball games. Those are my favorite days out of the year.
Yes.
So get pumped for football. Get pumped for basketball. I know we've got a couple guys coming back on the basketball team who are going to make a huge amount of noise this year. Mountain West Conference is going to be a huge thing for us, so keep that in mind, people.
And hey, quick shout out to Preston Medlin, who got married over
Congratulations,
the
sir.
Nice.
Yeah.
I don't know how to follow that. My last words are, beating a BCS team is not the end game for Utah State. Sustainability is. When you're looking at what Matt Wells is building here, it's a program that will be successful not just this year, not just until Chucky Keaton leaves, but for 10, 15 years down the road. To emphasize this point, look at Hawaii. Went to a BCS bowl, did all the things that we want to do, and look at their program now. It's garbage. And it's nothing that any of us would ever want for our program. So it is more important to sustain success and build a program that will last than one brief moment where you catch the national attention by beating one of the big boys. It's a byproduct of being a champion. And you know what? You don't get to a BCS bowl without first winning your conference. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this episode of the Front Row Show. As always, interact with us on Twitter at USU Front Row. Facebook, everywhere you can find us. Make sure you interact with us and come to the watch party Friday night at Savannah's Barbecue. It's going to be a good time and a good time to interact with us here on the show. For the Front Row Show, I'm Jeff Browning.
I'm Lance Rasmussen.
And I'm Matt Sonnenberg.
Go
Aggies!
Yeah, but what if I'm afraid of poop?
Hey, you State fans. This is Trevor, sound engineer for the Front Row Show. Come join us this Friday at Savannah's Barbecue, 880 South Main, for a road trip watch party. The only place where you will be able to enjoy good food at a good price while hanging with the boys from the Front Row Network as we cheer on our Aggies. Kickoff 7 p.m. Go U State.
Hey, Aggie fans, thanks again for listening to this episode of The Front Row Show. Be sure to download all our archived episodes on iTunes, follow us on Twitter at USU Front Row, like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/USU Front Row, and subscribe to us on our new YouTube channel at youtube.com/USU Front Row. Go Ag!